We're here this morning at lovely Possum Kingdom Lake. I'm here with my buddy Jay, who has a story to tell. And I thought I'd get his story and share it with the world. It's a good story. So let's start off with give us a quick overview of how you got to where you are now. Like, you had a rough upbringing. Talk about the rough upbringing.
Yes, I was raised in the country in Indiana up until the time I was like 11 years old. Then my parents made the decision, or I guess my dad's job forced us to move to Phoenix, Arizona, actually Mesa, Arizona, where my parents shortly got divorced, and I was pretty much left on my own to fend for my own. At the age of 15, my mother moved away and left me on the streets. So from that point, I got in with the wrong crowd and became a drug dealer and stole and lied, cheated, you name it. Had a rough childhood. My father figure was a warlord of the Dirty Dozen in Mesa, Arizona. It was now the Hells Angels.
The Dirty Dozen was a motorcycle
gang.
That. How did they convert to the Hells Angels?
I guess the Hells Angels went in and did a patch over, is what they call.
Patch over?
They didn't give them a choice. Like, they had to join them.
Oh, it was like a coup, a military coup, basically?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what they do. They come in and they take over the town, and you have to join them or not. But your business ceases when they take over. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well,
anyway, did my first injection at the age of 19.
What was that?
Cocaine. So sold on a low level, small time dealer, just to make ends meet and keep myself high. And then at about the age of 21, introduced to methamphetamines. And from there, I was off and running for the next 15 years before I finally made the decision to stop and moved to Texas. But at that point, the damage was already done and lying inside of me, which I didn't realize. I had Hep C. And started to get sick here in Texas. Went to a doctor. They told me what I had and offered to help me, but I was tough and strong and worked every day and drank every night and thought I was bulletproof. So long story short, a few years later, one night I started coughing up blood, and it led to a bunch of different operations, which led to a liver transplant. And that's at the point where I met Jesus. Prior to this, I heard about God and, seen these people and thought, man, I'd like to have what they have, but I just really never wholeheartedly believed the things I'd seen and done and been through. Hard for me to believe there was a God. So naturally, before my surgery, I prayed, not really believing. But after the surgery, boy, did I get a surprise. I was in ICU for a couple of days. I think at some point they asked me if I wanted something to eat. For some reason, I chose salad. Started choking on the salad, went into seizures. Definitely on my way out, they called everyone in. I'm kind of hearing commotion. There's no bright lights ahead of me. There's just a window over here that's opened up, and it's in Colorado. It's not really sunny. It's a cloudy day. And I'm lying in the bed, and I hear all these things going on, and all of a sudden, everything gets bright. My eyes are closed at this time. Everything gets really bright, and I'm like, wow. Then all of a sudden, I see Jesus Christ himself hovering over me. And he looks at me and smirks. I felt the warm air hit my face, and I woke up. And when I opened my eyes, I seen angels all around me. Half bird, half human, halos, just like everything you ever seen. I feel like others have had visions. That's why they're able to capture these visions. Like Jesus, he looks exactly like what you would expect him to look like. So,
What can you describe that? Can you describe what he looked like to you?
he long hair, a beard, mustache, just a look in his eye like a gleam, like, man, you talk about it was a high that I've never experienced before. So naturally, I see the angels, and immediately I start telling everyone, Jesus Christ just saved my life. You guys see the angels? And of course, no one sees them. And there's a doctor there. He's from Israel. I think I was his last transplant. His name was Dr. Calm. And I sure loved that man and owe my life to him. But he smiled at me, and I could see the godly look in his face. And he's like, I believe you. And from that point on, my life hasn't been perfect. I've had a lot of setbacks with the cancer and surgery after surgery, and they've been telling me I'm going to die in 6 months for 9 years. I'm still here. I've tried chemo a couple of times, and this last round I decided heaven's way better than this, and no more. But I feel compelled to tell my story. I've told it to a lot of people, and I hope this reaches a lot of people. Because, man, I'm telling you, I was not worthy. I'm not worthy of anything that I've got. That, the life I led, I just, my main wish before I pass is to help others come to God any way I can. And I pray to God every morning, give me the tools, man, show me how. And Robin came into my life, and it's God working is all I can say. And very grateful for that. And I hope this story reaches a lot of people, but this is just part one, because I'm not done yet.
All right, excellent. I really like you didn't tell the part of your story, which is probably my favorite part about when you finally made the decision to leave Arizona that night. Would you mind telling them people about that?
Yeah, I was had lost custody of my children, on drugs, no real place to stay. I was staying with a lady who was a drug dealer, and I didn't have anything. I was walking one night, and I was just thinking, man, I'd do anything just to get out of this city. I'm walking down an alleyway, I was on a sidewalk, and there's an insurance place. There's a biker bar about a block down the road, but it's all Harleys. But there's a Yamaha sitting in a parking lot. I think it was like a 920 special or something, and I walked over to it, and something came over me. Anyway, I stole the thing. I couldn't start it right there. It didn't have a key in it, but I pushed it down the alleyway. Lo and behold, I'm behind a place that sells electrical parts. So there's electrical wire laying all over the alleyway. So I know how to hot wire one. I've done it before. So I did. And started the bike and went to that gal's house and got what little belongings I had. Called up my connection and got some drugs fronted. Sold them, got the money, fled to Texas, and had a brother here in Wichita Falls who told me to come on. And that was the best move I ever made. I just continually met good people here, and it's all God's plan.
You had told me before that you felt like God put that motorcycle in your path. That
Yes.
It's a bit of a conundrum because obviously you're not supposed to steal stuff, but sometimes the path just opened up in front of you. Maybe he was punishing somebody else who owned the bike.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe I saved someone's life.
By them not riding motorcycles?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yes. Yeah, I do feel like that it was put there for me. It was almost like one of those moments, you know. And then me riding the motorcycle all the way to Texas with no helmet. And as soon as I hit Texas, there's a helmet law. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I start riding around complexes looking for a helmet to steal. Couldn't find a helmet. So I had a toboggan hat and a sweater with a hat on it. What do they call those?
A hoodie?
Yeah, a hoodie. So I put that up and put that hat on me, and I was trying everything I could to make my head look like it had a helmet on it. I get down the road 10 minutes after that, go through a small town. There's a policeman sitting right there. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to make it. It gets behind me, follows me through the small town. I never changed a license plate on the motorcycle, nothing. I was like, oh no, this is it. I'm had. Somehow, by God's miracle, that policeman turned around and went the other way.
He was probably just happy to see you leaving his town at that point.
So. Yeah. He's probably like, stolen motorcycle from Arizona. I'm a small-time cop. No thanks. But whatever. I mean, that was a God thing, you know, that I got here.
Yeah. Quite a journey.
Yes. Then I get to my brother's house, and I've been on hard, drugs for a long time, and I always had a marijuana habit. And my brother was wanting me to get completely clean, and couldn't kick that pot. I loved it too much, and it was helping me stay stabled out. So anyhow, one day he comes home and finds some pot in his house, kicks me out. So I had a job selling outdoor advertising signs for a company called ICOM. And I was staying with my brother, and that's how I met the man, my father-in-law, now. That's how I met him at Possum Kingdom Lake, beautiful Possum Kingdom Lake. And went to work for that man. I told him the same story, told him the truth about my past, everything I had done. And if he didn't let me come to work for him, I was going to have to go back to that hell. And that man took me in and became my father-in-law. And I hope he was proud of me when he passed away, and I believe he was. So, but true story with me is I've told this story a lot of times, and perhaps maybe to deafened ears, to the wrong people, I feel like. But we just don't know, I feel like God just works through me sometimes. But I've been depressed, and I feel like, it's people think I'm crazy, and all my old friends, they all think I'm crazy, basically. So it's left me pretty much alone, and which has helped me come closer to God, though.
What do they think you're crazy? Because of your experience with
my vision? Yeah, because when I come back, and I had to tell everyone.
Sure.
That's, and I also made a promise to God that I would never touch another hard drug in my life, and I've kept that promise.
So how long has that been?
15 years now.
Really?
Yes. Since my
great.
transplant, it's been 9 years.
Yeah.
But a couple of years before that is when I quit the stuff because I was so sick I couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
That's why. But I made a promise to him after my transplant, after my vision, that I would never do it again, that I would never drink again. However, I have drank, so I let him down on that, but only 2 times. And one time I was feeling suicidal, and God got me through that. And I still smoke pot, and I'm not ashamed of it. And something I'm working on, but it helps me keep leveled out in my head. And I just wish it would be legal here in Texas so people could understand. I have stage 4 cancer, and it helps me. I don't want the pills. This is just what works for me. and I'm an advocate for it.
So you don't take any narcotic pain medicines or anything?
No.
Just the marijuana?
After they cut 20% of my lung out, sent me home with a really strong painkiller. It was 250 milligrams. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, I took a half of one the first night, never took another one. It just made me out of my head, and I don't do pills. I don't like pills. I'm not going to do any more chemo. I'm going to stick with my pot and until God sees fit for me to do something else.
Well, the last time you and I visited, or maybe it was the time before, you had seen, it's actually where we made the septic system for this house where we're sitting at. And it's a level area. And Jay thought it looked like a stage. Thought it'd be a great place to have a church or a biker rally.
I thought about that again this morning. I was thinking about that. That's odd that you said that. It's almost like it's put together. It'd be a great place to have an Easter service or any kind of service.
It probably would.
We could have, what do they call where all the Christians gather?
Church?
Yeah, church. But no, what am I trying to think of? Where they have the tent reunions.
A revival.
Yeah, revival.
A revival. It might be a good revival.
Yeah.
The septic system revival.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has a certain ring to it.
But the thing with me, folks, is I didn't have much of an education, but I am able to read and write and everything like that, thank God, is I'm not really a Bible scholar. And when I go to trying to preach to people, I have a hard time because some smarty will be like, what about this or that? And I'm like, I don't know, and I'm like, I don't know. All I can tell you is my experience and how God's changed me. And, I can read the Bible. I understand it for a short time, but it goes right out. My comprehension, I can't comprehend. I mean, I can read perfect.
Right.
But I just cannot comprehend it. And I'm working on that.
There's a movement in the United States, or maybe the world, toward not worrying so much about knowing every little thing about the Bible. So what do you have to really believe and know to be a Christian? You need to believe that Jesus died for your sins and was resurrected, and he's there for you when you die and take you to heaven with him. That's all you really have to know or believe. All of that other stuff, like David slinging a rock and hitting Goliath in the head with it, that's not what the religion is about at all. That's just a historical story. And do you really need to know that or believe that to be a Christian? I don't think so.
Right. Or do you really need to know who was whose brother, cousin, uncle, whatever? How it starts out at the first of the Bible.
Somebody else. Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed and confused. But now, what I do now is I listen. I do audio, but still not a Bible scholar, but share my experiences. And I know God is real. I know it. And after I got out of the hospital, about 2 weeks later, I was walking through a park in Colorado. This man's dog breaks away from him, and it's a pit bull. And I don't know what it was, a vicious dog, because the man's yelling, and the dog's running towards me like 100 yards away. And he's screaming and yelling at the dog to stop. The dog's running right for me. I'm like, oh, man. But I really didn't feel, at that time, I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel nervous. It was the weirdest thing. I felt protected. And I stuck my hand out like that, and that dog stopped. He's like, mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, man. I felt like I could just walk on water at that point. I had this high like I'd never felt with any drug I've ever done in my life. I just felt so high, and I just started crying.
Have you talked to other Christians who had a similar high? Because I have. New Christians get a high like that, feel like the weight of the world's been lifted off.
No, unfortunately, most of the people I try to talk to are not Christians.
Yeah. But you've had some bad well, maybe not bad experiences, but certainly unfulfilling experiences trying to talk to Christians too.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like they kind of demean me,
yeah,
or like, yes, yeah. One time we were in a group at a Church of Christ in Cisco. I've tried all kinds of churches and never felt like I fit in. But I made the comment of, did Jesus have a sense of humor? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Everyone started laughing at me, They're like, sure, he had a sense of humor, and that was just one thing I can think of. And then another thing some of the men asked me in the group was, what do you do for a living? And I sell junk on eBay and mow grass, and just don't have a trade, just scraping by. And I think I told them that, and they said something, I can't remember, that really turned me away from that church.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, I've had lots of experiences like that. And sometimes I feel like when I get in these certain crowds that people feel threatened by me. And so they'll say things, to make me go away. And but I'm not trying to be a threat. I just want to share my experience, be happy, for others to be happy. But that's how I feel sometimes.
That's why, I had talked to you. You're looking, you're seeking
Exactly
for answers, and we had talked the last time about the possibility of starting an online church. So, where I'm coming from right now is I grew up in a Methodist church, and then my wife's Baptist. I went to a Baptist church for a long time. Never fit into that stuff because they were so rigid and they expected you to believe every little thing that they believed. And I don't. So I would sit there and just be miserable in church. However, in my Sunday school class, I liked the people. I enjoyed the discussions. And so, some of my lifelong friends came from that Sunday school class. Our church broke up, as churches will now, because they tried to fire the preacher, and he didn't want to be fired, and so he fought back, and before you know it, the church it was already dying, but it went from 150 people attending church to 50 people. So we're without a church, basically, now. And I'm kind of comfortable with that, because I like having 2 Saturdays rather than just one, because we used to get up every Sunday, get dressed, go to church, drag the kids, get them all ready. But our kids are all grown now, and I'm not going to church, but I do miss the community. I miss getting together with those people, talking and sharing what went on in the week, and having them actually listen and care. And they were also the kind of people, like, if you were sick, they'd bring you dinner, stuff like that, which most people don't have that anymore. That's just going away. And I would like to rekindle that. And the idea I have is having an online church where people just get together, it's like a big Zoom meeting at first, and it's going to get too big for Zoom, and then you just put it on Facebook Live or something like that. But then have small groups where the people can actually physically get together and watch together, and then have lunch together or whatever. Anyway, that's just a thing I'm tossing around,
and find a cause maybe to promote.
I actually have a cause. You might be interested in this too, because there's a friend of mine who's been in prison. When we got out, he had a buddy that took him in and gave him a little trailer to live in. And so this guy's gotten out. He's built a business and found some land. And it's not his land, but a guy lets him use it. And he's got like 10 little, it's little house trailers. They're not mobile homes. They're like little RV trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got like 10 guys that have gotten out of prison and nobody wants them. And so they're all living there together, and he's got rules, and they got to go out and get jobs. They got to pay whatever rent they can and all that kind of stuff. And he feels like he's got a calling to help people coming out of prison to rebuild a decent life.
Those are the kind of people I connect with. Them are the kind of people I've been around my whole life. And even here, seems like I managed to find those people. I have friends right now who are meth heads, but I connect with them. It's weird, but I think I'm the strength in the group. I've never touched it, and it doesn't bother me to be around them. And I'm always preaching to them and trying to get to them. And in fact, a good buddy of mine today is going to be gone away again. I've been telling him for months to stop, and then he got pulled over in town, got arrested, going back to prison.
That's too bad.
He was on parole. Yeah. And I tried everything to get to the guy. And the whole community's tried to help this man. And that's, man, it's tough. Hard pill to swallow.
But drug addiction is
It's powerful.
so hard to get out of once you get in it.
It is. And meth is the worst. I don't know what's the worst anymore. But for me, all the things I've witnessed, oh my God. I've walked in houses you would not believe. You would not believe it, man. The conditions that children live in. And man, I've seen so much that, but most of those people end up in prison, or if they're not lucky, they die.
Yeah.
And, but man, I do believe that a man can change his life at any time in his life.
Well, you've certainly done
The
it.
power of God can change you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard road. It ain't going to be easy, but it can be done. But the main thing is you want to go to heaven. In these times, man, it could be over today. It could be over tomorrow. We don't know, but we are in some bad times right now.
It's looking pretty ugly. There are people who are trying to break down society into anarchy. It's
This time next
it all around us.
everything could look a lot different. Not as peaceful as this. And God, I pray that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I pray the right person gets in there and that we don't have a riot on the streets. And
I'm afraid whoever wins, if the other side will riot. I believe it's like enemies of America basically have funded the people who have, probably it could even be just, I don't know these things for facts. It's just what I think. So who stands to profit from the United States being disrupted? Well, other countries, China for one. I believe they've worked toward dividing our population so that one side hates the other.
yes,
And that's really, really sad, rather than us all working together to make it a better place.
that's true. Families are breaking up over this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And myself, I try to stay out of it. That my way out of it is, I'm like, oh, I don't have an education. I just don't know enough about it. But I do know enough about it. But I don't want to get involved in those conversations.
You can't argue with somebody who's firmly a believer of the other side. It's like a Christian visiting with a Muslim and one trying to convince the other that their religion is the true religion. They're not going to. But
Right.
it's almost like a religion now. The politics. Okay, is there anything else you want to tell the world about your experiences? Or
Don't give up. A lot of people say, get on your knees and pray. I say, pray any way you want to pray. Pray by yourself. Pray in front of people. It doesn't matter how you do it. God's with you. You have an angel assigned to you. You can make it happen. You have to have faith. Think of all the things you've had faith in before. Try it. What do you have to lose?
okay, well, thanks for joining us. I hope this helped you. I'm sure it helps you, and I hope it'll help somebody out there in YouTube land.
Sure makes me feel good.
All right, bye, y'all.